For this lesson, we're going to be talking about multiplying polynomials. But before we get into multiplying polynomials, I want to make sure we remember how to add and subtract polynomials. So here for our warm-up, we just want to simplify this expression. And when we talked about this earlier, we said the first step was to rewrite everything without parentheses, and then we could work on combining like terms. So if I rewrite everything without parentheses, I would have 3a plus 4ab plus 3b. And then remember, a minus sign in front of parentheses just changes the sign of everything in parentheses. So then I have minus 2b minus 5a minus 8ab. Then I just work at combining my like terms. I can see I have terms with just an a in them. I've got terms with just a b in them. And then I also have terms with an a and a b in them. And since everything's just raised to the first power, we've got sets of like terms. So I'm just going to combine them. 3a minus 5a gives me minus 2a. 4ab, positive 4ab minus 8ab gives me negative 4ab. Positive 3b minus 2b gives me positive 1b, or just b. And this should just be an easy review of combining like terms when we're adding a polynomial. So the first thing I want to talk about for this lesson when we're multiplying polynomials is the FOIL method. Okay? And when we multiply two binomials means two things each with two terms. Here's my first binomial, x plus 4, two terms. Second binomial, x minus 2, has two terms. And they're being multiplied together. So we're multiplying two binomials. We want to find the sum, so we're going to add all these things together. The sum of, and then the products of the first terms, and that's where we get the f in FOIL. The products of the outer terms, that's where we get the o. Inner terms, that's where we get the I. And the last terms, that's where we get the L. So you can always just remember FOIL is, and the way I always say it is first times first, outside, or outer. I always say outside. Outside times outside, inside times inside, or inner times inner, and then last times last. That's what FOIL stands for. So if you look, we've got our FOIL right here. First terms, outside, inside, last terms. First term times first term. You can see we've got this red arrow showing first times first. We take the first term of our first binomial, that's an x, times the first term in our second binomial, also an x, and we get x times x. And since we're finding the sum of all these different pieces, we're always going to add in between them. And notice that's where we're getting these addition signs down here. So we do first times first, and then we add it to outer terms. So the outside, you can see x is on the outside, negative 2 is on the outside. Don't forget to always look at the signs in front of these pieces. So we get x times negative 2 plus the inside terms. So you can see, if we look at this, positive 4 and positive x are on the inside. They're closest to the middle of these two terms. So we get 4 times x plus last times last. Or you can sometimes think of this as second piece times second piece, because it's the second part of the first binomial multiplied by the second part of the second binomial. And that's where we get this 4 times negative 2. As long as you follow this FOIL method, first times first, outside times outside, inside times inside, last times last, you can multiply binomials without too much work. Then you notice we get x times x is x squared. And then you may be wondering, where are these minus signs coming from? I thought we were adding everything. Well, if you notice, we have x times negative 2, which would give me negative 2x. And remember, adding a negative is the same thing as subtracting a positive. So instead of writing plus negative 2x, they just write minus 2x, which is how I prefer to write it. Then we have plus 4x for our insides. And then notice we get another negative here, 4 times negative 2. So instead of adding a negative, they just subtract a positive. So we get minus 8. And then your last step is combining like terms. Notice we've got a minus 2x plus a 4x. You get positive 2x. And there's your answer. So as long as you're multiplying two binomials, this only works when it's just two binomials. You can't have a binomial and a trinomial or a monomial and a binomial. This only works for binomials. You can use the FOIL method. First times first, outside times outside, inside times inside, last times last. And here's it visually if that helps you. So let's look at a couple examples. We want to find each product. To do that, I have two binomials, if you'll see there. So I'm going to use my FOIL method. So the first thing I do in FOIL, first times first. The first term in each my binomial, so I get 2x times x plus, then I do outside times outside. When I do outside times outside, I do 2x times positive 5 plus inside times inside. That's positive 3 times x plus last times last. Positive 3 times positive 5 gives me positive 15. And actually I'll write that as 3 times 5. Just so you can see exactly what's happening. And then I'm just going to simplify all these. 2x times x gives me 2x squared plus 2x times 5 gives me 10x plus 3 times x gives me 3x plus 3 times 5 gives me 15. Then I just have to combine my like terms. Right here in the middle you see a 10x and a 3x. I can combine those. So I get 2x squared plus 13x plus 15. And that's all there is to it. Looking at part B in this first example, I'm going to FOIL it again. So first times first. And I'm not going to write out this step. You do not have to write out this step I'm circling right here in blue every single time. I just wanted to show you what I was actually multiplying by to get this second step right here. So I'm just going to jump right to the second step in this second example. So x times 3x, that's going to give me 3x squared, so there's first times first. Now I do outside times outside. X times positive 4 gives me positive 4x. Then I do inside times inside. Negative 2 times positive 3x, that's going to give me a negative 6x, so I'm just going to write negative 6x, and then I go ahead and I do last times last. Negative 2 times positive 4 gives me negative 8. Last step, go ahead and combine your like terms. We get 3x squared, positive 4x minus 6x gives me negative 2x minus 8, and that's all there is to it. As long as you can remember this FOIL, first times first, outside times outside, inside times inside, last times last, it makes these problems much more manageable to do.